Hi, my name is Tom. I'm out here with Barry. We're doing a job for him, building a portable building out here for them, and I noticed a hump out here in this field, and I asked him about it, if that was a levee for a pond or whatnot. I couldn't see. He said, no, actually it was something that was here when they got here. I asked him then, secondly, is there a creek or something around here, waterway, spring, anything like that? And he said, on the other side of it there was an old one. We've come down here to investigate that. You can see the little low spot here where water at one time flowed. It could have been from a spring that is seasonal. In the winter when we get a lot of rain, we'll have a lot of springs that will last until spring or midsummer when it dries up, or a lot of the springs from then have dried up, or creeks have moved. But in talking to him, he's found a couple of arrowheads around here. So with the humps that are here, the high spots, I surmise that it's probably some mounds that were built by the Native Americans. They had a period called a mound building period, in which they built a lot of these mounds for their camping areas. What they would do is they would build a mound up, or most of them are just small, what we commonly refer to as pimple mounds, and they would build their thatch hut on top of that. And the reason for that, when it rained a lot, which is, we get a lot of rain here, the water wouldn't flow through their hut. They had thatch huts here, not teepees. A lot of misconception goes in that too. But you know, he said he's found a couple here. We found a little bit of petrified wood, and now we're going to walk around and kind of scout what we can. With the grass as it is, we probably won't find a lot, but you never know. Then I do plan on coming back with a screen, doing a little excavation and seeing if we find any charcoal, any pottery remains, or debitage from them making arrowheads or knife blades, which is, you know, flakes, chips, core chunks, things like that. But right now we're just kind of in the scouting mode, looking around through here to see where might be the best area to dig for a little bit of evidence to see what time period the Native Americans were here in Caddo Parish in Louisiana. Probably the most of the mound building period here was done when the Caddoans were the predominant, I guess you'd say, tribe here, which covered all of northwest Louisiana, southwest Arkansas, and into northeast Texas and northeast Oklahoma as well. But it's something that I do as a hobby, or I guess you would say as an addiction. If you ever find the first one, you're pretty much hooked after that, or at least everybody that I know has found one has. But it's a lot of fun because you know you're picking up something that's been left behind by another human being that could be as old as 13,000, 14,000 years old. Now, it is a rarity to find one that old, but it does happen. I think personally the oldest one I've found dates back to about 11,500 BC, but I've been doing this for about 35 years. Maybe a little longer than that, but that's saying long enough. That gives you enough of my age. But anyway, we're going to walk around and look for a few signs here if we can find any. One thing about North Louisiana, well, let me tell you what we're looking for first. What we're looking for now is evidence of them being here. Probably the easiest thing to find is materials left over from when they were making the arrowheads, as far as surface finds go, which flakes, chips, whatever you want to call them, what's left over from them napping the arrowhead out. And what we do this, we call this looking for color. You're just walking around looking for anything that's a different color from the dirt. Might even be the same color, but something that sticks out. Usually the best time to do this is right after a rain, and the best place to do it is like a ground that's been tilled up for a garden or fields, which I have a lot of spots here in Louisiana that that's where we find the most of our stuff as far as surface hunting goes. This is in the hobby what we call the free stuff. You just walk around and pick it up. It washes up with the rains. You get into the serious part of the hobby is the digging. A lot of work, but I've dug holes big enough to bury my four-wheel drive truck in within a day. Well, of course, pretty sandy soil, but and find 2 or 3 arrowheads and be happy I found those. So we put a lot of work into a lot of our collections, you know, in the beginning. Of course, you get older, you kind of learn how to work easier. If we have equipment, I know a lot of guys nowadays that have pay digs, that they've got a bobcat, they set up screens, you go there, pay so much, and they keep your screen full of dirt, and you just wash it through, well, push it through with your hand, looking for arrowheads. Now, one thing about that, you always want to wear a glove, because these flakes that are left over from making arrowheads are very, very sharp, and they'll slice you to the bone if they would get hung up in a screen and you run your hand across them. So gloves is a must do. In fact, a lot of flakes were even used as cutting tools. If you know what to look for, you can see where they might have shaped it for a specific purpose, and it was just a flake but turned into a tool. They used them for scrapers, for knife blades, and actually we have found flake points as well, where they find a good flat flake and design that into like an arrowhead for the actual true bow and arrow. But what we're doing, like I said today, basically just looking for a little color. We're going to come back with a screen in the near future. Maybe when we get a little bit of rain, it softens this dirt up a little bit cooler, and dig down for charcoal, evidence, pottery, flakes, anything of that nature. And then we'll be able to tell a lot more. We have found a couple of pieces of petrified wood so far. Barry said he's found a couple of good chunks up there around his house as well. And where they built his house, he said they pushed 3 mounds down originally, so that would have been actually 3 home places where a thatch hut was, and where the warrior lived with his squaw and maybe his children, however many he had. But that being said, that's about what we're up to at this point. We're in an area here at Barry's place where there are mounds built, and kind of the downside to that is 90% of the mounds, or maybe more, were just small mounds that had a thatch hut on it that the warrior lived in with his squaw and kids or whatnot. And he didn't per se make arrowheads. You had one guy in the tribe who might have been crippled. He was unable to hunt, fight, or anything like that. And his job was specifically to make the arrowheads for everyone else to use. Knife blades, scrapers, drill bits, any of the tools that they used, he would make. And in return, they kept him in meat and, you know, kept him eating to where he was happy. And he would, of course, pass that knowledge on to someone before he died. Now, like I said, the downside is on a mound, looking for evidence on these mounds like this is 95% of them, maybe more, are not going to have any evidence except for charcoal, maybe bits of broken pottery. We found a few things here, but nothing really is screaming that it's been humanly altered. This piece right here with the point on it might be, I'll have to get back and examine it closer. Could have been made into a drill bit or something like that, but I'm not real sure on that. I'm not positive yet. But when you do find the one mound that the napper lived on, you're going to see a lot of evidence, a lot of flakes. That's where you'll find most of your points. You dig on these other mounds, you might find 1 point or 2 that the person that lived there lost over the amount of time he lived there. That's hence why it's still there. Or the napper, he would lose, you know, lots of them over time, or might even bury them to when he needed them. Come back and bury them and give them to whoever he wanted to give them to. So a lot of times you'll be looking like this and think you're not doing any good or finding anything, when just might be the next mound over that you hit that you'll find the mound that the napper was on. What we have here is a lot of iron ore in our area that's kind of makes it a pain in the butt bending over flipping all this up. But as you can see, I'm looking for colors and flipping it up to see if it's got any work on it. But the mound building culture, I think, was predominant for about 1,500, 2,000 years. Went all the way up into the Ohio's area, Mississippi, and actually a lot of it was considered Mississippian. That's what they call it. Those were the ones that first developed the bow and arrow, which I'm sure put them leagues above everyone else as far as technological advances go for weaponry. A lot of them never can switch to the bow and arrow. In fact, a lot of them stayed with the atlatl, which was what was used prior to the bow and arrow. And I'll discuss that in another later video and bring some implements that were used in connection with the atlatl, or so it's said. They've been found in connection. For instance, a banner stone was used a lot with the atlatl. I have a few banner stones that are very, very rare. They're quite expensive as well if you want to buy one, but I have a few of them that they were, not mine particularly, but banner stones have been found with laying next to an atlatl hook and a, as they call it, a dart, or a shorter and lighter spear than is a handheld spear. It was one used with the atlatl, which gave you about 80% more distance and speed than what a hand-thrown spear would give you. But I'm convinced that there was natives living here. We'll come back with a little screen, do some test holes, and see what kind of charcoal we find, maybe evidence of broken pottery, maybe some more flakes, maybe even get lucky and find some few points, and we can pretty much zero in on the time period they were here and be able to tell you how long they were here, what time period they were here, and maybe even speculate as to how large the tribe was here. And it was probably a part of the Caddoan culture, if it's in that time period, the Mississippian or the mound builders time, which is after the Archaic. You have basically the Paleo, which is the oldest, when they were nomadic hunters. Then you have the Archaic, and then the Mississippian, well, the Woodland, I take that back, then the Mississippian periods, which go all the way back to probably 14,000 BC. Paleo is probably the rarest point you'll find, because at that point they were nomadic, they followed the game. They didn't stay in one place very long. Then you get into the Archaic, and you get into the Woodland, up to the Mississippian, which by that time, 90% of what they ate, they grew. They did hunt, kill meat to supplement their diet, but the majority of what they ate at that time period, they grew. That being said, I guess we'll wrap this one off. Come back when I bring a screen back and do a little digging and find out a little bit more information than what we can find doing on a surface hunt here, especially with the grass being what it is. We'll see a lot more too once fall gets here and the grass is dead and we get a little bit of rain to wash this stuff down and expose some of these artifacts. Now, one thing that you need to learn first thing in hunting for artifacts is everything's not going to be shaped like an arrowhead. We threw a lot of stuff away when I first started hunting because we were ignorant to the fact of different artifacts. If you find an arrowhead there, or evidence of an arrowhead, and find other rocks there that are rounded, shaped, anything like that, it could be things for, you can look up on Google it, whatnot, celts, axes, pendants, they made beads, jewelry, drill bits, leather punches, gravers, tattooing needles, and in some areas you'll find a lot of bone artifacts, where here we don't have it. Our soil is so acidic and we have so much humidity, bone doesn't last very long, it rots. You can bury a body in the soil and in 300-400 years there's not going to be any evidence left, the teeth, the bones, anything is gone. Up north, especially in caves, you can find, they have found actually leather robes from buffalo hides with the embroidered paint, or what are you going to say, the artwork done on it still there as well. Not something in Louisiana you're going to find unless you're in a shell mitten. You might find some bones that the salt water has, and the calcification of the shells has saved, but other than that you're not going to find any bone tools here in Louisiana. Man, this right here is it's my passion. It's a bad addiction, but I love it. That being said, I enjoyed it, and I appreciate Barry letting me come out here and look, and I'm looking forward to my next time out. And with that, wish y'all a good day and happy hunting.